Starting this podcast was an unexpected step of obedience of something that God has called me to do. Through this podcast, I will be interviewing ordinary people who have seen and experienced God move in extraordinary ways throughout their lives. I pray that this will build your faith and encourage you to testify of God's goodness in your everyday lives. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Testify of God's Goodness podcast. I have here with me Leona. So she's a big part of my life. So I've been kind of discipling you for a few years now.
Yeah.
So it's been really cool. I was one of your youth leaders, and then you started coming to my girls group Bible study. How many years ago do you think it's been?
Probably like 2 or 3.
Okay, I thought it's been a couple years.
Yeah.
So it's cool to see how much you've grown in Christ and just the transformation that He's made, and just getting to be part of it. It's been really cool. So tell us a little about yourself. So age, school, jobs, and then talk about how we know each other.
Yeah. So I'm 15. I do Penn and Foster online, and then I have 3 kind of jobs. So I have I work for my brother up at the Pennsylvania Dutch Market. He owns like a sub shop, and then I work at Spring Valley, which I just came from, and then I also do photography.
Yeah.
So
very busy.
Yeah.
And how old did you say how old you were?
15.
15, yes.
Yeah. Very busy.
Yes. So what part of your testimony do you feel led to share today?
I think just the friend group stuff and how that can affect your, I don't know, your whole self, the people you surround yourself with, and then addiction and stuff, because that's a big part of my life, because I'd struggled with it for so long. And just to help people see that there's a light at the end of the tunnel with that.
Yeah. So talk a little bit before we dive into that about your life before you accepted Christ. How was that?
I've always I came from a Christian family. I came from the Amish, so they're obviously Christian. But I've always been my family is just very I don't know, I guess you could call it lukewarm is a word people sometimes use. They're just very they're Christians, but they're not fully, you know what I mean?
Living their life.
Yeah. So I've always gone to church and stuff, but I've never got anything out of it. I just went to go, you know? But it was just very I don't know, I would say I was a Christian and then gone do stuff that's not Christian and it was just very I don't know, I got led into addiction and stuff through friends, and addiction runs in my family a lot. And I just got around the wrong people and started doing stuff that I should not have been doing. So I feel I don't know, I was just living in dark sin. And I would drink and smoke Saturday nights and then go to church the next morning. So I was very I don't know, back and forth, if that makes any sense, you know?
Yeah.
So it was just very dark.
Yeah.
Is the best word to describe it.
Yeah. And I can relate in the sense that was my story. So when I wasn't addicted at all, but when I got out on my own and went to college, and even some in high school, to be honest, I would go to parties on Saturday night, but then I would justify it by going to church on Sunday, but I was not. God continued. It's not I was I'm done with her, I've given her too many chances. He continued to pursue me through that season and lead me closer to Him and say this is not the abundant life that I have for you. I have so much more. You're going to have so much more purpose in life when you're living for me, rather than living a worldly life, getting drunk on a Saturday and feeling drunk the whole next day, and it wasn't fun. So it's hard to get out of that. So talk about your friend group, and I've shared the quote. I'm going to share it here too. We are usually the sum of the 5 closest people in our lives, and I can look back on my life and see the fruit of that. The 5 closest people around me, I did act like them and take on their traits and how they talked and everything and how they lived. And that is why, like, I'm very, very thankful for the community that he's surrounding me with right now. So talk about how that played a role in your life.
So like, I've never like had a lot of friends. Like I've always been kind of like, I don't know, I kind of stay to myself and stuff, and I've never like, and like since I'm homeschooled, it definitely makes it harder to have friends. Or like more, I don't know, I get like, I just don't have a lot of friends. But like in like 2022, I'd say, I started like getting more friends, but they weren't the right kind of friends.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. Like I was friends with this one girl, and like I kind of became friends with her friends, if that makes sense. And we were like a big group and stuff. But like the things they were doing were just leading me into like sin and addiction and stuff. Um, and it was definitely just not the right group of people for me to be around, especially considering addiction runs in my family, and it's very easy to get addicted when addiction already runs in your family.
Yes.
So we would like, I don't know, we'd hang out, but it wasn't like good kinds of hangouts. Like we'd like vape and stuff.
Yeah.
And so that was just not. I ended up like being friends with them for like a whole year, and then finally, like in like 2023, I like started going to church more and like started like go to youth group and like actually listen to the sermons and actually listening to like the preachings and stuff. And I started like maybe being a little bit more careful with who I hang out with. And so I kind of like blocked a few people out of my life. Like slow. I didn't just be like, okay, well you're like a piece of crap, so I'm gonna like, you know. I like did it in a graceful way, and I look back and I'm like proud of myself for that, because I just slowly started to like pull away, and I was trying to like invite her to church. Like it wasn't like I just was like, okay, you're like too far gone, you know. I tried to like invite her to church and stuff, and then I just kind of realized like I don't need to be friends with people that don't want what's best for me. So I met like a couple different friends that I'm still really good friends with at church, and they really helped me to like see that I don't need to like be friends with people that are just leading me into more and more sin, you know. So I started to get like a better group of friends, and like I feel like everyone around me could tell when I got better friends, because like it really is true, you're the sum of the 5 closest people. So when you start adding like godly people and people that want good things for you, you can really start to tell, I feel like. So I think in like 2023, like early or maybe mid 2023, I started to get closer with a lot of different girls at church, and just in general like better people. But it's still like I still struggle with like wanting to feel included in everything. So like when someone tells me there was a party or something, I like still find myself feeling left out. Even though I know like deep in my heart that's not something I want to be included in. You know? Like I'm like, get it together, Leona, you don't want to go to that party, you know? But it's still like hard. I just feel like left out. Which that's another thing, like being homeschooled and having like friends that go to public school is another thing that's hard, because it's like easy to feel left out, if that makes sense. But it's definitely true. Like you're the sum of the 5 closest people, because I can tell, like my sister can tell, because she's the closest person to me. She can always like spot my friends out. Like she's like, Leona, I don't think she's good for you.
Out on that.
She's like, Leona, I don't think she's good for you. Like I don't think you should be friends with her. You know.
And that's a message for somebody like that. If the people, especially your family, that sees the highs and lows of you, like if they're calling it out and saying like, this is a toxic friendship, this is a toxic relationship, listen to those people. Don't disregard it. And I think sometimes when we are so lonely, we can be more okay with just any friend that comes along, right? But I just want to encourage people to stick it out, to pray for that good, godly friendship, and he will provide. And we talked about this in the episode with Sam that I recorded earlier today, but pray for that and be the one to initiate, be the one to invite, right? Because that's what it takes. I feel like you're very good in that, because anytime that we had like a youth group outing, whether it was snow tubing or YEC, like the conference, or anything like that, you always go out of your way to invite others to that. So you are good in initiating, and I am proud of you for that, because it's not always easy, right?
Yeah.
So how was the transition from one church culture to another for you? So you talked about growing up, you were in the Amish church, and then you guys moved here when?
Well, we left the Amish when I was 5.
Okay. So
Or
you're pretty young.
4, yeah. Like it was something, so it was like 10 years ago, 11 years ago, something like that. And then we lived in Pennsylvania for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I think we lived there for maybe like a year. And then we moved to Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
And we lived there from when I was 5 to like, I think until I was like 9 or 10, probably 10. So we lived there for about like 5 years.
Yeah.
And then we moved down here to West Virginia. I think it was like 6 or 7 years ago. However that makes sense. I don't really know exactly. Okay. Like we might have lived in Virginia for like 4 years.
Yeah.
We've lived here for 7 years, I think.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I think
it's hard to remember, especially when you're so young.
Yeah. I think it's like 6 or 7 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we started, so in Virginia, I kind of forget. I think we were going to a Mennonite church.
Okay.
I kind of forget. Like it's all kind of a blur. But we were going to a Mennonite church, and we were kind of just plain, is what they call it. Like,
yeah.
I mean, my mom wore a head covering, and we all wore dresses and skirts and stuff. And then when we moved up here, we started going to, so we moved up here because we had like a church connection, which like one of my dad's friends lived up here, and he said we should start going to this church. So we did a couple times, and then we were like, well, this is like a really good church, so we're going to like move up here.
Wow.
It was the Haven of Hope in Augusta, or so we moved up here, and we were going there for probably like 2 or 3 years.
Okay.
They're like kind of like an Amish, Mennonite, just all different kinds. So that was really good for like, I like had a bunch of different friends that like understood like the Amish background and stuff. Yeah. And then we kind of stopped going there, and we started going to like an addiction recovery church type thing, because like my dad really struggled with addiction and stuff. So we started going there, which was really like random how it started. But that ended up being like a really good church for us. Like it really, they had like a little small group thing on Friday nights, and then they had church on Sunday nights. Okay. So that was really good for us, because they had a lot of different like people that knew where like my dad had come from and stuff. So we went there for like probably a year or so. Okay. And then they actually shut down. Okay. But my mom was like working for their like, it's called Pathways. Yeah. Like their like organization type thing. Yeah. And then we stopped going there and started going to Covenant, because John and Crystal had invited us. Okay. Yeah. And we've been going there ever since. I love it. But it's definitely like, when I look back on it, I'm like, we went from Amish to like Mennonite to like addiction recovery center to a Baptist church. Like it's a lot. But I definitely feel that God has led us to the right church now. I feel that way too. Yeah. Yeah. But it's definitely like, it's crazy to think about. But it's like, it's definitely been hard to go from like the Amish to like now. Yeah. I don't know. It's like, it's been a process. And yeah, I don't know. It's just been crazy.
Yeah. And I think that's hard really with any church transition. Yeah. Because I went from I've always gone to like different Baptist churches, and I'm like open to any other, like it's not, I'm not saying Baptist is end all be all at all. Yeah. But I went from a really small one growing up to like, I tried a couple different churches in college. And I went to, a bigger one that I loved, that I found and I loved out there. And then when I moved back here, we went back to our small one, and we were the youngest one. And there just like wasn't a lot in our age group, which is fine. That happens in some churches. But at that point, we didn't feel like we were growing as much. It's still a great church. I have nothing against it. We were like, okay, let's church search. So we did for a while, and we found some great ones. And God really led us to Covenant. That's where my brother and sister-in-law were going. So they kept inviting us, and we were like, yeah, it'd be kind of nice to go with family and spend the extra time with family. So that was like our motive. We want to be a part of a church, but the family was the bonus. And then we ended up joining, and like Pastor Dale did our premarital counseling. Dakota got baptized there. So it's just really cool to see, the different stories of why God led you where he led you. And sometimes that does take trying a couple different churches to find the right fit for your family. But I would challenge people to find a good church and to join it and to just get linked in and start serving. I feel like that makes a really big difference too. So how have you seen God move in and through your life and through heartbreaking seasons that you've walked through? How have you seen God move through those?
I don't know. Like, he's definitely shown his like good and faithfulness to me, because like there's been countless times that I like any other God would have like ditched me. You know what I mean? And he's always been there. Like, there's been countless times where I've been like, well, God's not going to forgive me for this. So, but he always has. He's always there.
Yeah.
And there's been like countless, there's just been like so many things that he could have just pushed me to the curb for. But he's always there. So he always like shows his good and faithfulness to me.
That's so good, yeah.
And even like, I don't know, I believe that like God gives his, God gives his hardest battles to his strongest soldiers or something like that.
Yeah.
I always try to remember that, because like, I mean, it is true, like, our family as a whole has been through the ringer a couple times,
Yeah.
And I just feel like he's always brought us out on the right side, no matter if we were like, well, why did he put us through that? There's always been like a reason, and it's always came out on the right side. So but there's
that's
just been,
so true. You think about like in the Bible, time and time again, like every single character in the Bible, like they not character because they were actual people, but they went through such trials and they did see God's faithfulness. And then you talked about how you thought, you were too far, you could have been too far gone and everything, but then you look back at the story of the prodigal child, how he got his inheritance and he went and spent it on all these like prostitutes and all, just like lived a wild life and then lost everything and was literally like caring for pigs, and he was like about to eat the slop. Like, that is the lowest of low. And he was like, I could literally go back to my father and I would be like, even his servants and his slaves are like treated better than I am right now. So he went back, and his dad could have been like, no, you messed up. You were too far gone. You're done. But no, like when his father saw him coming, he met him and he like embraced him and welcomed him back in and threw this big party for him. So, and that is how, like, you think about how the verses where it says, like, that they were, like, the angels rejoice when one lost sinner returns.
I just saw that verse, like, yesterday.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really good verse.
Yeah. So it's such a reminder, like, you're never too far gone. God's always pursuing us and, like, living. We can choose to live how we want, do all the things we want. We're not robots. God created us to have choice. But we know when we are living for Christ, like, you can even be a testament, like, how much more joyful that is. And yes, there are really hard times, and you do get upset as a Christian, for sure.
Yeah.
But just having that hope in Christ and saying, like, okay, I'm not alone. He's never going to leave me nor forsake me, as it says. And he is near to the brokenhearted, just reminding yourself of those things. So I want to bring up a little bit, if you don't care, when it came to your health issues, right? So you, for a while, explain a little bit of that.
So in, October of, I think it was like October or November of 2022. 2022. I had like a really random, like, we were on our way to church, or not on our way, but we were getting ready to leave for church. And my brother had like this gaming simulator, like a cockpit type thing. And I was playing that for a little bit, and then I like got up and I stepped wrong or something, and my knee popped out of place. This was like the first time it had ever happened. Nothing had ever happened like this. And I like fell to the ground. Well, like, my brother caught me, but I fell to the ground. And I was like, I don't know what just happened. Like, I had, like, passed out. It was so painful. And we were just kind of, like, confused at what happened because no one really knew. Like, no one saw it. I didn't really feel it because,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously I felt it, but I didn't know what actually happened. And we just kind of, like, brushed it off. We were like, well, I don't know. We don't know what happened, so we can't really figure anything out. And then it didn't really happen again until, like, maybe like March or May. I mean, it happened a couple times, but not anything like bad. This is actually like a funny story that we laugh about now, but we were doing the church like pancake and sausage gravy fundraiser thing.
Yep.
And I was carrying like a 25-pound bag of like pancake mix down the stairs. And it was me, my sister, and like Caitlin, I think.
Yeah.
We were on the stairs and I was carrying this 25-pound bag of pancake mix down the stairs and my knee popped out and I like kind of fell down the stairs. I mean, like I didn't actually because I kind of grabbed something, but it happened. That was pretty bad. I mean, it was I don't know. We put ice on it and yeah. And then like it happened a bunch of times through there. Don't even ask why we didn't go to the doctor because I really don't know. Flash forward to August of 2023. We were playing volleyball at like a worker little get together thing for the sub shop, and we were playing volleyball. And I was going to like get the ball, and I like stepped wrong, and there was like a hole or something in the ground.
Yeah.
And my knee popped out like so bad that it was out for like 20 minutes or something. Yeah. I couldn't walk. I had to use like my granddad's walker.
Yeah.
And it was like the most traumatic thing that's ever happened because like everybody was there and everybody was like around me and stuff, and I was like freaking out and I didn't know what happened, and you know, because it happened so fast.
Yes.
And I kind of like blank out for like the first 30 seconds or so, I don't really know what happened until like I woke up and everyone's like around me, you know, and that's such a surreal feeling because you don't know what happened.
Yeah.
And so that time was really bad. Like I couldn't really walk for a couple days. But I was just kind of, I'm such like a people pleaser that I just kind of like, I'm a recovering people pleaser.
Yeah.
I just kind of like push things off and make it seem like it's okay so that people don't worry about me.
Yeah.
So that happened, and then it just kept happening after that. Like, it was, and then it started happening the other knee. So it just kind of happened. Like I couldn't really walk without like it popping out or something. So I was actually on crutches from, it was after him coming. So it would be like October. I think October until like, maybe January.
Okay, yeah.
It was like a couple months. I was pretty much constantly on crutches. And then it was kind of off and on. We ended up going to the doctor. We went for x-rays at like the hospital. I forget when we went. Probably like February or something.
Okay.
It's kind of a blur. Like in this time I was like laying in bed all day. I couldn't really get up by myself. So if like I was at home by myself, which was rare, but if I was at home by myself, I couldn't really do much. Like
your other joints started hurting too.
Yeah. Then it was like my elbows and my shoulders, like my wrists, my ankles, like it was everything. My body was literally fighting itself.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is going on? Like we went for x-rays for my knees and they showed nothing. Like they said they're normal. And I was like, they're not
emotionally, that's really hard too if they're telling you you're fine.
Every doctor I went to, like they were just telling me I'm fine, and I was like, it does not feel fine. This is not normal for me to not be able to walk without my knees popping out.
Yeah.
So we went to like countless doctors or like countless different doctor's appointments. Like we went to our local doctor, we went to the hospital, we went, you know, and then finally we went up to Pennsylvania to this like, I don't know, it's called Softwave, I think, or something. It's like an electrical therapy. And he said he did one treatment and he was like, because he can kind of see where the pain is with the little machine. And he's like, I don't really want to work on you without knowing what's going on because if it's like a torn ligament or something, he can make it worse by doing it. So he got us in with an MRI. So we went for an MRI and got the results that day, the same day. And it turns out I have something called congenital circular dysplasia, which is pretty rare. I think it's like 100,000 people have it.
Yeah.
It's not like really rare, but it's kind of like,
yeah.
It was pretty unheard of.
Yeah.
But he said that he recommends physical therapy, or at least to get a consult with physical therapy, see if because he didn't really know what it was. Like, he had kind of heard of it, but he needed to do more research.
Right.
But he didn't know if there was like a surgery or something. But anyways, we went to physical therapy, and I did physical therapy for probably 5 months or so. I forget. Like I said, it's kind of like the timelines were all meshing together. But during this time, we had kind of figured out what's wrong with my knees, but it was still like my shoulders and my elbows and my ankles. Like, I was literally like, every time I would work, like at the sub shop, I was sitting on a chair doing the register, but every time I would work, it felt like something else would happen. Like, I was cutting fries one day. Like, this is just a random story to tell you how much I couldn't do. I was cutting fries with fry cutter, and I guess I pushed down too hard, and my wrist literally snapped. Like, I felt it snap, and so it was just like everything was just. It felt like my body was literally falling apart.
Yeah.
And it was just very frustrating, mentally.
Yeah.
I didn't want to get out of bed. I didn't want to see anyone. I didn't want to hang out with anyone. I didn't want anyone to I didn't want people to know how bad it was.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want pity.
Yeah.
So it's just very mental battle more than anything for me. It was obviously physical, but for me it was more mental than anything.
Yeah. And then when did you guys figure out? Because I remember, was it your grandma that joked around and was like, "Oh, you got Lyme's disease"?
Yeah.
Because she says everybody has Lyme's disease.
So my grandma, she tells everyone, she doesn't diagnose people, but with everything, she says they have Lyme's disease. Because it's that's a real, she's an Amish woman, and that's kind of a common thing for Amish is just to slap Lyme's disease on it.
Yeah.
So I kept telling her, no, she's crazy. That's not what I have. I don't remember getting a tick bite in the last 5 years. I don't know what you're talking about.
That ended up being the root of it, right?
Yeah. So we went to a doctor, and he told me I have Lyme's disease, along with a couple other things. I had arthritis in my joints and stuff.
Yeah.
But he said that that's probably the reason why my shoulders and elbows and stuff were acting up. So we went up there and got started on medication for that. And
it was some kind of a natural remedy, wasn't it?
And it was something.
Seemed to cure it,
Yeah. He I went up there, I think once a month. We traveled 4 hours there, 4 hours back. So it was long, made a day out of it.
Yeah.
So the whole time I was literally just crossing my fingers and praying that it works, because that's 4 hours there and back is a long time to drive. Yeah. But according to him, I'm currently Lyme's disease free. So
that's awesome.
That's amazing.
And I've seen such a transformation in your health over the past few
I
years.
used to come in here on crutches and braces everywhere, you know. So
and that's what I would encourage people, if you're experiencing health issues like that, don't think that you're crazy. Go and get second opinions.
Go to however many doctors it takes. You're not crazy. And that's a big thing for me. I felt like I was crazy because every doctor we went to was oh, we don't know what to tell you. It's probably just, you're fine. Brush it off. Everybody deals with health issues. But it was to the point I literally could not walk,
Yeah. That was a crazy time for you.
Yeah.
Okay.